And welcome to a new edition of my LinkedIn Live stream that's also on other networks. I'm going to quickly just make sure that it's working. Streaming to LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter now X, and Facebook. Looks like it is in fact working, and there's also a chat that connects any comments and things made from all those different networks in case you have a question. So I'll try to be really proactive in looking for those questions while we go forward. Sometimes I forget to in the heat of the moment, but today I wanted to do, I guess, kind of a content slash user experience rant audit. Because of my past as a web designer, now as a content creator, I just have a lot of opinions about how other people execute things, and especially when it affects my experience as a customer, as a user. And so if I had to give today's episode a theme, I would say fraud. So that I'll leave that there dangling for you to hopefully be interested in to see where we go from there. But I wanted to start by saying, first of all, a reminder to please submit your own content. You can use this link, Blogsmith minus the vowels .tips/content UX. Always looking for volunteers. I promise, to give you things that are actionable, that are respectful, useful. And I also wanted to prove what I'm saying by showing you, I used to do UX audits on Fiverr. And so as you can see, I have almost 200 reviews. Some of the bad ones are because I didn't deliver on time. But basically in terms of the actual good ones, people really do like what I have to say when I'm doing these sort of UX audits. UX is what it was at the time. Now it's a little bit more content focused, but as you can see, people got useful insights from it. So I'm just trying to encourage you to submit your site and, get some usefulness from it as well. And unlike these people, you're getting it for free in exchange for me being able to share it with other people, but again, in a very respectful and actionable way. Although since the things that we are going over today do not originate from people submitting these ideas, I don't have to be quite as respectful, and I can just share what's on my mind. So there's kind of three quick hits I wanted to go over based on my own user experience and how they could have made it better, with things to think about from your perspective, to take into how you create content, how you create user experience, how you design for the web. So the first one starts with an interesting text message my husband got the other day. So let me share that here. Okay, so I'm just making sure that it's seeing it. So there's some Bleacher Nation article, and one of my husband's best friends was reading it, and he says, "Has your wife been kidnapped and turned into a bot?" So somebody was impersonating me, and the specific commenting mechanism on this article is Discus, DISQUS. So it's something that you can embed on a site. It's a separate tool, but you can integrate it with your site to create commenting functionality where perhaps it doesn't exist. So I'm going to pull up the article, and you won't be able to see, but basically this was the article, and then also kind of a little bit of a user experience problem. When I first entered this page, everything was kind of squished together, so I had to really seek with purpose to find where the comments were. It didn't have all this empty space. But anyway, so when I show comments, I think it was actually this one. This comment was deleted, so that's where it was. And so anyway, as somebody who has a personal brand here that I'm trying to build and defend, I was trying to figure out how to report this comment and then ideally get some sort of follow-up about it. And so if we go up, since the comment's not there anymore, I'm picking on no expectations here, so sorry about that, dude. But it gives you the option to, when you click the little three buttons, to flag the comment, and then you get these options. So basically I clicked impersonation. I don't know why I can't say that word. to show that they were misrepresenting themselves. And then it basically said flag, and it has a disclaimer that Discus doesn't moderate these communities. And so like this will go to the monitor of this particular page. And then it was just like, okay, so we sent that. But I was like, okay, but now, like, what happens to me? Like, are you going to let me know if you, like, take that profile down? So then I went to that person's profile. And again, I'm going to pick on no expectations here. And I accidentally, like, did click to report, and it didn't let me unclick it. So I might have to follow up after this to just be like, whoops, that was not meant to happen. But anyway, they kind of have the same options here. You can report the user, but it doesn't really say anything about following up with the person who reported it. And specifically in this case, whose reputation and identity like has been stolen. I mean, it's kind of low stakes here, right? Because it's like some goofy like sports blog, you know, that like I certainly would have never read. It's not my target audience. And you know, they're not necessarily trying to get anything from anybody. The link that person had shared in that original screenshot that I showed, and I'll just flip the camera back to me for a second, but the original link that person shared, it was like a phishing thing or something. Like you click it and then it like goes to a site and then it like redirects to another one and tries to get you to download something. I mean, that's still something that I don't want associated with me, whether it's, you know, just my image. It's not my name, but still, you know, the image means something to me. I think it would mean something to anybody who was impersonated in any way. So yeah, so I wanted some kind of follow-up. So I was looking on Discus's site, so I'm just gonna flip back here. I was looking on Discus's site, and I was like, okay, so what happens, you know, like I want like a little bit more help here, because it's not really about like the site and like the comments or whatever. It's about like, I want a follow-up here. And so I went to help, and everything on the help documentation is like it's like their knowledge base. It's like from the technical side, when you're integrating this like onto a site like Bleacher Nation or whatever. It's not really about like, I mean, there's stuff about moderation, but again, like I don't think I'm going to find my answer there. I guess I could click in and see, but it's a forum, right? I actually need somebody to interface with me. So then there's something on the bottom, get support. Okay, so I click that. And I think it just led me down sort of, okay, no, here's what it is. So it led me here, and it's like, okay, well, you could search our knowledge base, or you could ask the community. And that's pretty much it. Like it's kind of like continuing to redirect me in this loop of, you know, these different places where I could find existing information, or I could talk to other users from a technical perspective. But it's like, what I really need here and what I need help with is to just like make sure that something happens with this person. And if you need further follow-up from me to prove that I am who I say I am and that's my image, that like you have a dialogue with me and you can get that information. And I mean, maybe it's worth mentioning that I have a Discus account, so you know, maybe there would have been some sort of notification, but it didn't tell me that in the messaging leading up to that point. So anyway, I finally like found their X profile, Twitter now X, as I like to call it, and you know, they kind of discouraged me from getting in touch. Our main support channel is like the pages that I already showed you. And then, so I just, you know, and to their credit, they did delete the profile once they said, hi, this user is impersonating my image. They didn't need any further information. But again, it's kind of one of those situations where it's like, I'm probably not the first person that this has happened to, you know, whose image got, co-opted by somebody else. And again, like it's not like the end of the world or anything, but I'm a different user than the people who are going to the support forums, right? I actually need to connect with like a human. I can't rely on historical data because this is a new finding. So yeah, again, it's like, I don't think Discus like totally messed up here. They responded, you know, they took care of the problem, but the messaging along the way could have been better. Or when I went to, you know, get help or something like that, it's like, are you looking for technical help, or are you looking for something that's more about the nature of the messaging? Is there hate speech? You know, are people telling people to do unsafe things? Like there's a whole lot that a separate support team or process could cover really effectively. And I guess like the last limitation with the Twitter thing, like I'm kind of lost as to like the way that Twitter works these days now that it's X or whatever. And I will sadly admit that I do have a premium subscription because it allows me to DM people. So am I only able to DM Discus because I have that subscription? That's another limitation for anybody who doesn't have that but has the same problem. So anyway, I have harped on that one for I think as long as I care to today. And I want to move on to the next thing that I wanted to talk about. We'll call it a little palate cleanser before we get to my second fraud example. So this one is just a bad user experience, a bad content experience, because again, that's kind of what this is about. So this is VentureBeat's website, and I just remember looking at this article a while ago from one of my AI newsletters or something like that, and thinking like, oh yeah, I definitely want to cover this on a future episode of this live streaming series. And really the main issue here is the ads. And so as a refresher, Google's search quality rater guidelines say that you can have ads, that, you know, ads may in fact be like the reason why a website can operate. They are a way to monetize. Google doesn't say that you can't have ads. What they do say is that they shouldn't obscure the main content. And I would argue that this floating video thing does that all on its own. And maybe it's a little bit fringe because it's not directly covering the content itself, but I would argue that having this sidebar ad, having this top bar ad, then we have this one again, which I don't know if it's an ad so much as it's like a related article or related media, but it's like popping up in a way that is super not useful. We have this like CTA ad. It's not, you know, part of, from what I can tell, it's not part of the content. It's like a related CTA that they probably, you know, programmatically inserted or something like that. But, and as an aside, it's totally fine to do that, but it should probably be distinguishable from the rest of the content if it isn't in fact directly related, because this is talking about spoken audio market and this is about AI. The article is about AI, but this section is not about AI impact. It's about audio and it's not about that. So if it really is like kind of like an ad of sorts, you know, it's not part of the narrative of this particular article, then, you know, draw a box around it or give it a different background color or something so that I don't like read the article and then think this is part of it and then get confused when I get back into it. So that's just a little bit of an aside. Here's another ad. Another thing that's kind of weird about this article is like the styling kind of changes. I think this is like very nitpicky, but I think the font size is 1 point larger here than it is there, and that's kind of strange to me that like they must have done that on purpose when they created these list items, but I'm just not sure why they did that, and it's just kind of jarring. It's also the fact that, and again, like list items can have different styling, but this one has like some line height, and this one it's like condensed, everything's like packed together. This one has room to breathe, this one doesn't. I don't know, there's something about that. It might have been intentional, like that might have been the way they wanted it, but something reads odd to it with my eye. It just seems kind of messy, I guess. What else was I gonna say? Here's another ad, and then it kind of ends abruptly. And like this is a total aside, but I kind of hate when articles, you get to the end of it, and like granted they're like a publisher, like they're a media house, like their whole thing is like get eyes on articles, so like from that perspective it makes sense that when you scroll you start reading the next article. But as a user, like I kind of hate that, because sometimes I'm like scrolling because I'm like looking for something, but then it's like I'm still looking for it. Oh wait, oops, I went to the next article. So I don't know. I just wanted to point out really mostly the ads. Like if they took away the ads, this would probably be a pretty decent reading experience, but the ads just like totally ruins it. And like I wanted to read this article initially and I just haven't, because I can't get past the ads. So one thing, I'm not going to say that correlation equals causation when it comes to the ads and things like, oh, like does Google consider that a bad content experience? But I was looking on like the SEMrush data, and interestingly, again, I'm not gonna like make a forecast here, but you can see that their organic traffic was like 523,000 visitors back in October, and look at how much it has dropped since then. I wonder if it has anything at all to do with ads and recent algorithm updates. And also, while we're on that note, in 2 weeks from now at this time, I will be doing another LinkedIn Live about Google's latest spam update. And that's like kind of why I'm bringing this up, but this doesn't like fit what that update was about. I was just thinking about it in terms of the subject today. But I'm not saying that like the ads caused this, but I wonder if, the user experience as a whole perhaps is a reason why their organic traffic has tanked to really like a fifth of its prime back in October at least. And we could see like how that goes back, but it's kind of outside of the scope of what we're talking about today. So that is my second user experience rant of the day. So the last one is not something that I'll show you because I'd have to kind of like duplicate the exact circumstances, but it's about being a credit card user and a business credit card user and somebody who uses that credit card frequently. And, if somebody were to gain access to that, it would be a bad thing for my business. And so I use the Citi credit card, and last Friday I got a call, very jarring in the morning, that was like fraud, like fraud happened, like we need you to call, you can't use your card, gotta call us back. And I'm a millennial, we're very like call averse, it's like, what can I do like over the internet? I'd rather do that than talk to somebody, and I would certainly rather do that than waiting on hold, explaining the issue, getting passed to somebody else, whatever. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But anyway, so I called them back right away, trying to do the right thing. There were some fraud transactions and they got it taken care of. But like halfway through this call, I'm like, wait, did I just fall into the fraud? Because I called back the number that called me. And so then I kind of freaked myself out a little bit. I eventually determined that was in fact the correct number, but I have learned a lesson for life, which is just use the number on the back of your card. So anyway, so I get my new card in the mail. They had to give me a new one. They took care of the fraud transactions. It's all good. But I'm still having like a little bit of anxiety from like how it all went down. Is there still a problem? Whatever. Am I for sure? Did I really call the right number? Whatever. So I go to activate my card today, and it's like giving me these errors. So then I try to log into my account to see if there's something that I'm missing. I had recently gone in and like clicked to activate it, from my dashboard after they sent the new one. And so now my login credentials just aren't working. So I'm like, okay, wait, are we back to this being like an actual fraud situation? Did somebody gain access to my account, lock me out? Are they even gonna like recognize that I'm the account owner anymore? So I like panic called them, and they're like, I had been getting messages when using my existing login that said like this information doesn't match anything in our system. When I go into the account recovery, even though I knew the password was right, giving them my birthday or my social or whatever, this information doesn't match. I'm like, oh God. So anyway, eventually between tinkering around and talking to the person on customer service, I realized that when you get a new credit card number, they actually make you re-register like a whole new username, password account online. And maybe that's a normal thing. I don't know, because this fraud stuff, like this is the first time it's happened in years, I would say at minimum, if ever, to this extent. And it's like that information would have been really nice to know when they sent me the card, or, when I talk to them on the phone, like, hey, by the way, don't freak out, but you're going to have to create a new login, and it's going to say that all the information you use to try to gain entry to your account is wrong and not in the system. Like, I think what I'm trying to say, if we were to summarize, like, these 3 bad user experiences today, going backwards, the takeaway from this credit card situation is, like, when people are already stressed because you're talking about their money, their livelihood, their business, like a, pain in their side to deal with, even if everything goes great, it's still stressful. Like, kill them with information, right? With stuff that seems relevant given this like higher level of panic, right? So here's your new card. By the way, you're going to have to pick a new username when you go to activate this or log in again for the first time. Great. Because my login was still working up until today. So even though like I had this new card, like I logged in to activate it, and then the next time I tried to access my account, this happened. There were at least like 2 or 3 different touch points where they could have given me this information that I am not, regularly used to. Okay. So then going back to like the VentureBeat thing, it's like, be thoughtful. I think with formatting, that's something that I always talk about. There are a couple instances where, it seemed kind of messy and it took away from the main point, but also like, use ads, but don't let them completely obscure your content experience. Don't let them sully your content experience, because to the point where people like can't get past them to actually read the content. And also like make sure your ads are distinct, like that somewhat relevant call to action that they had inserted, but ultimately it took away from the reader experience. And then the last thing that like discuss comment impersonation thing, like give away for people who aren't your technical users, but who are the actual users of the product, a way to get in touch if they see something that's wrong and they want to follow up on it. There was a way to get in touch. It wasn't catered towards the situation that I had, and I'm sure a lot of other people have had. And I'll take this opportunity really quick just to see if there's any comments. But essentially, give people a way to get in touch that makes sense for the situation in terms of how they use the product. I'm not seeing any comments, so I think that we are good today. I hope you enjoyed, the dark side of auditing websites, which is the rants, because people do mess up, but there are a lot of things that we can learn about the experience for our own products and services. I will give you a reminder once again to submit your website to this link at the bottom of the screen. I promise if you submit it, then I will be, a lot kinder in my analysis. And look forward to doing that. And then once again, the next live that we're going to do is going to be about the Google spam update that happened in March. It targeted a lot of AI content. It targeted a lot of websites that were publishing content and topics outside of like their normal, like known subject that were far outside of that. So really excited to dig into that with you, because I think it's really telling about the future of SEO and content and AI. At least it gives us some insight into where that's going. So thank you for joining me today, and